Hello, everybody. It's John Browning with the Building Your Life podcast, back again for another week. And we have a guest speaker with us today, and I'm really excited to have her. And this is Dr. Nancy Taylor. And she has recently done some speaking engagements. She was just telling me that she had just taught a couple classes. And Nancy, nobody can introduce you better than you. So I'm going to let you kind of just talk about yourself. I know nobody likes to talk about themselves, but tell us a little bit about what you do and maybe more importantly, why you do it.
Okay, thanks, John. Introducing myself. Well, I start by telling everybody that I am in the hope business. And let me explain that a little bit. I am a pharmacist and an independent advocate, and I am in the business of hope in the fact that I help people find and hold on to hope through healthcare action plans and through group workshops. And you may say, oh, well, what does that even look like? And I will tell you, when I get together with a client and their family, whether they are hoping to get through a crisis, they're hoping to avoid a crisis, or they're hoping to maybe change a trajectory of where they are, we start building their foundation of hope through their personalized healthcare action planning. And the whole idea of the action plan is to bring about that loss of control, giving them back that confidence, letting them gain some semblance of control through creating this plan to get them to goal, whatever that goal looks like. And it's going to look different to everybody. We all have some different type of goal, but we all share the same hope that we're going to have this wonderful benefit at the end. So we work towards that. What does that entail? What do we need to put together based on their wants, their values, their beliefs, and the timeline that they want to have that? Okay, maybe we're putting together providers. Maybe we're putting together services. Maybe we're adding things we didn't even think of. But maybe we're also not just looking at healthcare. Maybe we're needing to pull in some of those little strands of life care along the way. We all know that it takes a lot of backing to get through healthcare, whether it's finances, home teams, those kinds of things. So we work together in creating this foundation for these families to get them to the place that they really want to be.
Yeah.
I Go ahead.
No, that's see, this is where you and I and building your life, not just your portfolio, really dovetails, which is really fun to meet you at the CSA conference this year and learn more about what you do. But safe to say, being a pharmacist, you have a little bit of expertise over and above sort of maybe some other folks that might do a similar type of thing. And one of the things that we do here at Guardian Rock Wealth is build what I call the personal board of directors
Mm-hmm.
around your whole plan, right? So we look at it from a holistic standpoint, like you were just saying. It may not just be about the providers of the healthcare plan that you put together. It might be some other more holistic things that you're pulling down and you're talking about their values. Now, as we think a little bit more about this and where Guardian Rock comes in and talks a lot about this as well when we talk about building your life, not just your portfolio, the way that you build these things matters, right? And tell me a little bit about say just I you and I were talking a little bit before we got on the podcast here about a story that you were helping with right now. We won't mention any names to protect the innocent, right? But this happens all the time, and I find it as well. Is like, wow, we thought we had this plan, but tell me a little bit. Kind of go through that story a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Um, as you said, when we had met at the CSA conference, as certified senior advisors, we don't just specialize in only one thing. What the nice thing about that is we have so much encompassing that we can bring those pieces together. And this is an example of that. Whether when clients that I'm working with right now are in a healthcare crisis, we're in a crisis of needing to move one of the elderly parents from one skilled nursing facility to another. And in addition to this, as I'm talking with my clients, I'm asking, okay, who are your medical power of attorney? Who are your financial power of attorney? Well, the wife and the husband are that for each other. Very common. You see this all the time.
Right.
However, we run into a snafu, COVID. So we've got the husband who has COVID, isolated, quarantined in a skilled nursing facility. His wife also has COVID and is having some complications, isolated and quarantined at home. Their adult children, who are not listed on these documents at all, are trying to step in, live in different areas. One of them also has COVID. So we've got all of this separation. And if it really came push to shove, we have a problem because we don't have secondary and tertiary names on these really important documents. And when we're dealing with older adults who have multiple comorbidities, who are in facilities where a lot of that can move and fester, maybe in and out of hospital, we know that there's all kinds of things that can happen. What do we do if we really have a complication? Because you have a phone, maybe. And so this is an area where, like, okay, healthcare is now moving over into, we've got to update all of our estate docs too. And we've got to make sure that we're bringing in the rest of the family that we want, making sure that we're putting this up, getting these updates. And so it really does move into that financial component, right, that power of attorney component, who's going to speak for who, when. And so, having those discussions while in a stressful situation of trying to move from one facility to the other can be really heavy on a family. And this is where we end up with, in this healthcare action plan, oh, okay, we now need to add these life care aspects to it.
Yes. And, that's the thing. Like, we're not here, right? We're not on this podcast to scare anybody. That's not the point. But these things really do happen. Just today, I've been working with a client, and when I started working with them, no estate plan at all. And so we kind of got going. We got that started. And oh, by the way, financial plan, right? That's where that's my main thing. But we got them hooked up with their personal board of directors and estate planner, right? So then we got that going. And well, it's important, but it's not urgent, right? Nobody's feeling bad or anything else. He just recently got in an accident just over the weekend. And now, I mean, he's going to be fine, thankfully, but it could have just as easily gone the other way. And then that estate plan wasn't finished yet. And it's been kind of going on for weeks on weeks. So the enemy of enemies of all plans is this one word: procrastination. That's your biggest risk. That's your biggest risk. It doesn't have to. I can put that off. And then it's I can just do it myself. Right? If I'm doing that myself, one of the things that I probably wouldn't think of is, well, yeah, for my wife, she'll be a power of attorney for me, and my husband, well, who travels together most of the time? and
Mhm.
you're at risk, right? You're driving on the highway, something happens, God forbid, and then there's no tertiary plant, right? But this is the kind of stuff that you think about all of the time, and it comes as second nature to you. And this is why you bring somebody like Dr. Nancy in to just make sure everything's right and correct, so you don't run into, you're not feeling good, things are not going well with you, and then your kids are frustrated, they want to help but they can't, they're not legally able to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You bring this up, and it reminds me of this couple um, that I was consulting with, a couple who wanted to avoid a crisis. So we were looking together on the plan of avoiding crisis because at, I'm sure you see this all of the time, John. I had two solo agers that had recently moved across country to a whole new area. And their concern was, what happened if we became incapacitated at the same time? We are each other's power of attorney.
Right.
Now, they had a durable power of attorney, but that was states away, but they were okay with that. But the medical part, and they thought, we need somebody in this state that could get to us if need be as quickly as possible. So what do we do? Well, as solo agers, there's multiple things to think about when putting this plan of action together, because not only do we have to deal with multiple medical power of attorney if this situation were to happen, but as you said earlier, you help your clients put together their board of directors. And I do something very similar. I call it the home team. Because if something happens to both of you, things are still going on at home. Who's taking care of your pet? Who's making sure things are paid? Who is watering your plants? Okay, who's going to get you home? And then once you get home, who's going to do all these things? So, I help, especially my solo agers, put together this home team as part of their plan. And then who's going to be the designee that starts it all? Maybe it is their medical power of attorney. And that person makes one phone call and says, okay, this is the plan. We need to enact it now. And their home team takes off. So, we see this happening all of the time. But nobody wants to think ahead like that.
Well,
They're not ready to look that possible mortality in the eye.
that's
And
exactly right. It's an
yeah,
uncomfortable conversation, and we here on the Building Your Life podcast, we've talked about this over the years. This, I believe, we've been running now. We're coming up on 3 years of running the Building Your Life podcast. I think I'm coming up on episode 200. I think maybe next week, really soon. And so we've had some guests on, and we've talked a lot about this crazy idea that is really hard, and that is talking with, whether you're the older adult talking with your kids, or whether you're the kids and you're in the sandwich generation that I talk about a lot, which I'm in, right? And I
me
think you are
too.
as well.
Yep.
And you got aging parents of both sides and your own kids to deal with, right? And wait, what happens to us, right? We need to figure out our stuff too. And it's a huge issue out there, but it's so hard at a family. Thanksgiving's coming up for us, right? And it's Christmas, and we're in the holiday season right now as we're recording this. And you're getting together, you're not going to want to kind of talk about the healthcare plan. You're not going to want to talk about the estate plan. At some point, you need to have that conversation, and it's very, very hard. You had mentioned something to me that I think is fantastic, and something that I would never have thought of, is give the gift of a healthcare plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is their gift, and so that has more than one purpose, right? It is a gift, and it's a wonderful gift. On top of that, it brings up the subject And maybe if you do it right, it brings up the subject in kind of a lighthearted way, but a serious way as well, right? Tell us a little bit more about what you kind of offer in terms of the holidays coming up, or maybe it's a birthday or whatever.
Absolutely. So I do talk about giving the gift of a healthcare action plan. And the reason being is we are such an autonomous, I would say, world, but culturally, especially in America, we are very autonomous. And we don't want to think that there could be anything that could happen, or maybe is, and we're in denial that some things are happening,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe family members are seeing it. Or again, like you said, it's difficult to talk about. Sometimes having that objective third party that's removed from the family makes that discussion easier because it's factual. And that's the thing that you've got to take into account. There's a lot of emotion going on, but when it comes down to it, it's all factual. And being able to gift a healthcare action plan to a family member or a friend opens that door and allows an objective third party, me, to come in and let's just talk about these facts. Let's talk about, okay, the fact is, I don't want to live with my children. I want to be in my home for as long as possible. Okay, that's just a fact. All right. Or I specifically want my youngest child to be the first one on my POA. And so I want them ordered in reverse. Great.
Yeah.
That's a fact. You have your reasons for it. A outside third party is going to make sure that that's going to be a little bit easier done than you having to think about hurt feelings within the family. And so it really opens up that opportunity to let all parties just listen. Okay, we're just going to listen and instead of bring our own feelings into it at the beginning. And by putting this plan in order, and the plan is yours, it was gifted as a grip, that's great, but it's still your plan. And once you have made that plan, that's going to be a relief to everybody because then they know we have a plan. We have a plan going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that can really set things in motion to, like I said, one, bring relief, and two, reduce anxiety on both the person who the plan is for or the person who, is giving it. And I look at this and I'm like, okay, don't always just assume that the plan is for that older adult family member. That plan might be for the adult child, us.
That's
Okay.
right.
In that
Absolutely.
sandwich generation, you're like, no, wait. Mom may not want that plan, but I want that plan. I want it for me. I
Right.
want to know that if this is, where I am and I am still taking care of my children, but I've also got to look at my parents, then let's design it for me and my siblings going forward that can help us help them. So you
Yes.
don't always just assume that it's going to be about the older adult because it can, you can buy yourself this gift. You're like, I just need help. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have time to look at it. I'm busy. I just need someone to help me make this plan.
And you know what, this is the other thing, right? So I'm speaking to myself here because I'm in my 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're 40, you're 50, you're 60, it's interesting. You go through these stages of life, right? And sometimes it's like there's a season for everything, right? Sometimes it's winter, sometimes it's spring, sometimes it's fall, summer, etc., right? In our lives we go up and down. It's not always great, right? As you know, in my 30s I was like, you know, I'm gonna live forever. I'm like going, it's like, what do I need a plan for? 40s, I'm like, wow, a good friend of mine just got cancer, wow, and then 50s, you're just like, oh my, I've lost some friends. And, it's not just for your aging parents, it's also for you.
Oh,
And
it is.
you're not just planning for your retirement, you are planning for the fact that things are not always perfect in life. And this is where we use the tool, because that's all it is a tool, the tool called money, to build your best life. Well, one of the ways you use that tool is potentially to put a healthcare plan together and an estate plan together. All those
Mm-hmm.
little things, right? They cost some money, but the lack of stress then later on, and the peace. We talk a lot about financial peace, right? Well, most people think of financial peace being, I've got a gazillion dollars in the bank, so I'm peaceful because I can buy it. Well, you can have $10 million in the bank, and if your health goes, you don't care,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't care. And you know what? If you don't have a healthcare plan in place, then you're all stressed out. And guess what? Unfortunately, there's probably family members that are really like starting to fight over your money if you don't have all this in place, right? There's so many reasons I could probably go on for the next hour and a half, and you could too, right? About why you would want to have a healthcare plan in place and how that contributes to your financial peace and your peace overall. And that's really, at the end of the day, what I find that most people are looking for. And most people don't know that, frankly, I don't think they do, that healthcare plans even exist.
I don't believe a lot of them do.
Let's get the
And
news out there. This is why we're talking, and we're going to put it out
yeah,
to the world, right?
I want to talking about us in the sandwich generation. And I just want to share this little story. Um, I had a I had a woman come to me who's in her 50s. She's the primary caregiver for her father, who's in his 80s, but she also has 20 something children, some still in college. So she's definitely us. And she came to me and we were talking about a healthcare action plan. And it happened to be on what I remember I had said, changing that trajectory. She had started becoming anxious and losing that control. She just found out that she'd been diagnosed pre-diabetic. Her father is an uncontrolled diabetic. So they have been watching and working this roller coaster for a long time, just trying to keep him as healthy as possible and out of hospitals. And when you're an uncontrolled diabetic, it really affects all aspects of your life. And she's looking at her father going, I don't want to do that. I can't be that. I've already taken care of it and I don't want to go there. So we worked together, knowing where she wanted to go, knowing that it's hereditary. Okay. But we put a plan together to where changing what she's going to do for herself is going to change that trajectory. And being pre-diabetic, we might even get a reversal of diagnosis for her. And so that was really important to her, because then not only did she realize, oh, I am in control of this. I have this plan. I'm going to follow this. It boosted her confidence. And she's going to not end up where she sees her father. And that's going to be beneficial for how she's going to be able to provide care for him and care for her own kids.
Yeah.
So it's just, we look at this, and as you said, as we age in our 30s, we think we're great. But as we get older and conditions start to happen to us, yeah, we can still take back our control. We can still have confidence in this situation. There are many benefits of putting a plan of action in place.
Yeah. Yeah. People talk about, being in control. And the fact is that there are things that happen in our lives, and you begin to notice this, as you get older, right? Even more. There are things that happen that you don't have control over. You can think you do, you can wish you
Mm-hmm.
did, but you don't. But one of the ways that you can retain some modicum of control is by having plans in place for each aspect of your life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, just, having your plan, your financial plan
mhm.
in your board of directors, your personal board of directors, when you can see where your money is, how it's being taken care of, and how it's going to take care of you, that does give you a little bit of that control back. We work in such parallels, to make sure, but ours actually, they intersect.
They
They
intersect.
really do.
They really do. They absolutely do. That's our whole theme. Build a life, not a portfolio. And some people look at that and they say, well, oh yeah, I want this wonderful life of, I want to cruise the world. I want to fly around the world. I want to curl up in a cabin in the mountains or all this. But what about all the other stuff that goes on? What
Right.
about, when things happen, when you have a healthcare issue, when you have, you got to worry about the state plan, when you have a lawsuit happen, are you protected with a trust? All of that stuff, all of that is building your life. And that's what we do. And we put that board of directors around you. And you are right there on that board of directors, and you have another little subset, right? And man, we could talk about this all day long, but we got to wrap it up here. But
Right.
I want people to know how they can contact you. People know that if you text the word life to 321 421 5213, you're going to get all the links to all of my information, including a spot where you can schedule some time directly on my calendar. You will not talk with a member of my staff. You will talk directly with me. That's the benefit of being independent and a little smaller. I can actually provide that service. And you can go out to guardianrockwealth.com if somebody wants to contact me. So most of my regular listeners know that. What they don't know is how to contact you. What's the best way?
There's two really good ways to contact me, and I've tried to make it as easy as possible. I am out there under drtadvocacy.com, and that is drtadvocacy.com. You can Google me. You can go right to my website. Those that want to work with me through either employers or need to connect with me on LinkedIn, I am Dr. Nancy Taylor on LinkedIn. And those are the easiest ways. Right through my website, you can download my workbook, the Journey of Hope Healthcare Action Plan Workbook, for you to start your journey of hope and what that looks like. And you can also schedule right on that consultation button. It's on every page. But just
That's
remember, drtadvocacy.com.
It's not Mr. T. She doesn't have a bunch of gold chains around her neck, but it is Dr. T. I like that. It's
Dr.
easy to
T.
remember. I
Yeah,
love it. And the advocacy part of what you do dovetails right into our advocacy investing. And I'll make sure that there's a backlink to your site on our.
great.
We also have advocacyinvesting.com is also our website, because we are your advocate there. So it's been wonderful. This has been fantastic. We dovetail in what we do, and
Right.
I want to see how many people will grab a hold of this and realize that, hey, there's a real need there. Oh, by the way, does it cost $10,000 to hire you?
It does not cost
Oh,
$10,000 to hire me, but if you want
see,
to donate 10,000 to me, you go right ahead.
that's right.
But
There you go.
no, honestly, these healthcare action plans are very affordable. They are easy to purchase, and they come with a great gift certificate to whoever it is that you're sending to. So if you are interested in purchasing a healthcare action plan as a gift for a loved one, a friend, for yourself, then just contact me and we will get you set up.
I love it. All right. Well, and I'll have your links also at the bottom of this, wherever you consume your podcast. If you're on YouTube, wherever, it's going to be there as well. So, Dr. Nancy, thank you so much for being on the Building Your Life podcast.
Oh, John, I look forward to our next visit. This will be
All right.
fun.
Sounds good. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.